Hey everyone, it's Nathus. I have a sealed display of Battle for Whitefang Pass from SolForge Fusion, and I thought it would be fun to open one of the kits inside of this display. It's been a long time since I've opened Whitefang Pass. I've opened a lot of Kickstarter lately, so I thought it would be fun to open up these in a series of videos and go a little bit into sealed and what I would do in a sealed event if I were to open these decks. So I'm going to open one of these boosters today, and I'll do a couple other videos as we go over the next couple weeks or next couple days maybe. We'll see how busy I am. And we will open them, go through, do a sealed analysis, and then potentially I'll be playing those decks on the online client, so that'll be actually pretty fun. So we're going to open this kit now and see what we get. Definitely always hoping for good soul binds here. But it's been a long time since I've opened a foil deck as well, so it'll be really cool if we could get a foil deck out of here. Alright, so we've got 4 decks right here. I'm going to start with the Allan, and then we'll move on to the rest. Oops. I usually try to not look at the back to see if there's a soul bind. I like to be surprised as I go. This one I turned upside down a little too quick. So I guess we know there's no soul bind here because the back card is a minion. Alright. As everything next to me falls over, but we'll fix that later. Alright, so starting out here we have an Ardent Assassin, an Armored Medic. We've got a Combat Safeguard. We've got a Combat Techno Hulk, an Energy Surge, a Mechanizing Stonefist, a Nanoswarm, Redact, Stout Specimen, and a Venerable Technician. And then our Soulbind here, not our Soulbind, our Forgeborn here, is an Ironbeard with Intimidate at level 2, Shields Up at level 3, and Formation at level 4. So at this point, looking at this deck, the first thing that screams out to me is that we don't have a ton of removal. We have 3 total spells here. We have a Nanoswarm, which makes minions. We have a Redact, which is removal, which destroys something with power, 10 or less, or 8 or less, or so on. We have an Energy Surge, which makes gizmos and lets you upgrade cards or play them for free. So we have some stealth and mobility. So overall, we could push a little bit of damage. But looking at this list altogether, there's not a ton of synergy here that makes me really want to play this list. So the Specimen is pretty slow. Even though we have 2 stealth creatures, the Camouflage Safeguard and the Ardent Assassin, they're both a little bit like low power at level 3. The Mechanizing Stonefist is interesting because of the fact that it makes all your stuff robots, but unfortunately here we don't have any real robot synergy, so we don't have any payoffs there. So overall, this deck is interesting. Likely if I open this in a sealed pool, it would probably not get focused on in terms of play, but we'll see what the other decks are and we'll see if there's a synergy here. But overall, I would say there's not really a lot of ways to push damage, and there's not really a lot of ways to push your board forward as well. So here, looking at the fact that there's only 1 piece of removal and there's no bombs out of this pack, I probably would not be playing it in a sealed event. And obviously, it's been a while since I've laid cards out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the deck, and then I'm going to lay them out after, because that was just a little awkward the way that we opened that. Next, we're going to go into our Utera, and we're going to try to keep the front hidden, or the back hidden, so we don't see if there's any soul binds. There we go. Alright, so we're starting out with a Botanimate, Combat Bartok, a Combat Elk, Hesperian Steelplate, Hibernating Ravager, Mustic Megatha, Mystical Tangle Sprout, Shardplate Behemoth, Swamp Moss Lurker, Venom Chalice, and our Forgeborn here is a Nova, with Nova's Might at level 2, Nova's Judgment at level 3, and Nova's Dominion at level 4. So we'll lay this deck out real quick. Alright, so looking at this deck, the first thing that screams out to me, because when I look at sealed, one of the first things I do is look for removal. We do have 2 pieces of removal. One that I would consider to be hard removal and one that would be soft removal. Because even though our Botanimate It is level gated at each level. It's just automatic. As long as it's a level 1, 2, or 3 creature, it'll get removed by the appropriate Botanimate. Venom Chalice, it's kind of conditional because you really are dependent on what the toughness is of that creature, but the fact that you could buff the toughness of your creatures, you got a little combo with Shardplate Behemoth here, which deals damage with its toughness. So if you play Venom Chalice and then play Behemoth here, you're going to get a 27 toughness Shardplate Behemoth, which could be really nice. Now looking here, there's not really a lot of ways to gain life, but there is some life gain synergy. So obviously we have Botanimate and then Combat Elk are both our ways to gain life. Now if you gain life, you have your Hibernating Ravager that buffs and your Swamp Moss Lurker, which you could play for free. So in this deck alone, you don't really have too many ways to play those for free. You also don't really have any ways that we're generating additional bodies. So Asperian Steelplate is good, but not amazing. And we only have one Exalt, so Mustic Megatha has a little bit of synergy, but you really need more than one Exalt to get the breakthrough based off its power that it starts with. So overall, this deck is really dependent on the pair that you open it with. So we'll see what the other decks are. If there's one that has some life gain synergy, this could be a strong one to play. I definitely like this better than my Aloyan half, but so far, I would say it's in the medium power level. So definitely can't complain there, though. And also I have a new mic that I've been using a lot, which is great for when I'm just talking, but it's a little bit in the way in terms of actually like opening stuff. So I'm going to have to work a little bit to get a little more comfortable with mic placement and such. All right, so our next booster, or our next half deck. So we've got a Coldheart Brute, an Epidemic, Hibernating Banshee, Hibernating Fiend, Horrific Butcher, Horrific Demon, Indomitable Fiend, Keeper of the Damned, Primordial Slam Betrayer, Witherfrost Circle, and our Forgeborn here is a Cersei. We've got Soul Siphon at level 2, Shadowcast at level 3, and Sorrow at level 4. Cersei, after seeing Cersei in sets 1, Cersei set 2 is just really underwhelming, unfortunately, for me. Alright, so looking at this deck, the first thing that I see is that we do have a lot more removal than we have in the others. And actually, let me see if I can get that glare away. That's a little better, so we'll try this. So we have Epidemic, which like basically gives all of the creatures -8, -8, or -2, -2, depending on the level. Horrific is a great card because of the fact that if you have an opposing creature, when you deploy it, you give it minus attack and health. So there's 2 horrific creatures, which their stats as a whole are not incredible. They're great. They're okay for level 3s, but the fact that they're also removal is pretty nice, and the fact that the Horrific Butcher has a slay ability could be really nice with that horrific ability. Now, Keeper of the Damned with Indomitable Fiend is pretty nice because you could destroy... Oh, no, never mind, because Keeper of the Damned says you play a zombie brute in that lane, and if you're reanimating your Indomitable Fiend, it's just going to immediately replace that brute. But either way, Keeper of the Damned is still pretty solid with Coldheart Brute because the zombies that you make can get buffed by your Coldheart Brute. Now, once again, we only have one Exalt, but it's Witherfrost Circle, which is removal. So when you deploy it, you give a creature -4/-4, and then when that creature is destroyed in that lane, you get to play a random card from your discard pile from play. And then, obviously, we also have our Primordial Slam Betrayer, so it's just deal damage to a creature, and then you could give a warrior plus attack. So the only warrior that I'm seeing here is our Horrific Butcher. So it's something where you're not going to get that buff on attack often, but still just having like removal for a creature that you can't normally deal with is pretty interesting. Now, everything here is conditional, but overall, this one has probably the most synergy, I would say, in terms of just having removal, being able to then kill something off with the Witherfrost Circle. It could definitely give you a lot of opportunity to push some damage. So I guess the hope here is that we get a Tempest list that works very well with this list, because there could be warriors and other things that could just really synergize here. And I think that would be our best bet in terms of just getting a really strong sealed pool. on. So we're starting with an Aesir Mech Mage, a Combat Evoker, Disintegrate, Ice Storm, Rageborn Eruptor, Stampeding Warstoker, Thunder Crash Field, Unstable Vortex, Warbringer Ritual, Windy Stonefist. And we've got a Sunder. Sunder's got Stimbolt at level 2, Gale Surge at level 3, and Frost Blast at level 4. So just on first glance, this is definitely a very strong deck compared to the rest. Let's lay this out and then we'll talk through it. So the first thing to note here is that we have a couple really strong removal spells. So Disintegrate is one of my favorite removal spells for red, for Tempest, because it's granted it's only for creatures that enter the battlefield this turn, but being able to deal 8 damage up to 20 damage, depending on your level, can be really strong. Now, Ice Storm as well is a great spray removal card. Being able to deal damage to a creature and then like half that damage to adjacent creatures can just really help control the board. Now, once again, we only have one Exalt here, but Thunder Crash Field does stay on the field. So if you play the level 1 Thunder Crash and then you play the level 2, both will be on the field when you play it. So you could create minions, specifically spell sprites, which then will buff from all the spells that you play. Warbringer Ritual, once you play at level 1, you will get levels 2 and level 3 being able to let you play an additional spell for free, which is really nice with your Thunder Crash Field, because if your spell sprite dies, being able to then play a Warbringer Ritual to refill those lanes and then play another spell for free, which likely in this deck is going to be either a Thunder Crash Field or a removal spell, that's going to just really help you push damage. Now, you have Combat Evoker, which synergizes very well with playing spells. You have Rageborn Eruptor, which you get the buffs for having Exalts on the field. So again, you could put that in the Thunder Crash Field lane and push some damage. Then that Windy Stonefist could be a nice little finisher for every spell that you have in your banished pile, being able to then deal damage to your opponent's creature to just have additional removal. So this is definitely the favorite list out of the ones that I've opened. And I think that if I had to, at first glance, pair this with something, it's either going to be my Utera or my Necrim. So with that Sunder, real quick before we pass along, Stimbolt here at level 2 is key, because you're able to play a spell for free at level 2, which will then let you either play a free Thunder Crash Field or a free removal spell. I think that this is something that is going to really help push you forward with your strategies based on everything I'm seeing on the field. And obviously a Aesir Mech Mage, if you play that spell for free and then you use it as removal or dealing damage to the face, you could just push pretty well. So overall, I think this is a great deck. I think this is the best one I've opened out of this specific booster. Now, obviously you could pair it with, looking here, we've got our Necrim list, which again has a lot of horrific and a little bit of removal. And then let's go back and double check our Terra list, which honestly I think that's what I would pair. So basically we have this list over here. Now Botanimate is almost the card that's pushing me into wanting to play this pairing, because Botanimate is just hard removal, which going with Disintegrate and Ice Storm could be pretty incredible. We have another Exalt in the sake of Venom Chalice, which is really nice for your Rageborn Eruptor. So that could really help us out. We have Combat Bartok, which we could play first to then buff an additional creature. So being able to go to Bartok into Rageborn Eruptor could be really strong in terms of pushing damage in the sealed environment. Now, granted, we're likely not going to be doing a ton of life gain to be able to trigger our Swamp Moss, but at the same time, we do have just a lot of opportunity for breakthrough and pushing through damage, and a lot of these creatures that gain power here, so like even just Asperian Steelplate could trigger our Thunder Crash Fields. So we have a lot of opportunity with this fuse to just synergize with Thunder Crash, with Windy Stonefist, with Rageborn Eruptor. So I do think if I had to make a fuse right now, which I'm actually going to fuse this and play it in the app over the next couple days, I think that this is probably the fuse I would make. This Utera with this Tempest. So anyone who watched, let me know what you think, what you would pair together and why, and if you would pair something different. But overall, I think that this is a really awesome pull, one that I'm excited to try. And thank you for tuning in. So I'll see you guys next time with a kit opening to see what we get and see if we can get another good seal pool. All right, have a good one. I'll see you guys.